and Afrobeats with a reggae icon as your musical guide.
Mr. Lover, Mr. Sugar!
Sharing bouncy beats and unique island vibes from Sean Paul, Lady Saw, and more.
Just give me the light and pass the job.
More classics, reggae, and new music from all over.
On his very own channel.
Shaggy's Bombastic Radio.
Channel 332 on most radios and always on the SiriusXM app. Just search
Shaggy.
To hear this channel, activate your radio by calling 844-711-8800 or visit SiriusXM.com/go.
We want you to see them. SiriusXM Video lets you watch your favorite SiriusXM shows on the SiriusXM app. Groundbreaking interviews, amazing in-show moments, behind-the-scenes footage, live performances, all come to life in a way you only imagined before. Plus, you can create your own personalized Pandora station based on the artists you love. And hear over 100 extra channels filled with ad-free music for every mood or occasion. Get your first 6 months of our Platinum plan for only $8.33 per month, plus fees and taxes. Just call 844-711-8800 to take advantage of this amazing offer.
Because you had to be a big shot.
All my music on my very own channel, the Billy Joel channel. Billy's incredible storytelling.
Before we're going to go on stage, you need a few minutes to just kind of get yourself set for what's about to happen, because it's almost like a carnival ride.
Now for a limited time on Channel 79 in the car and on the all-new Sirius XM app. Get closer to everything that moves you, wherever you are.
There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, let's see. There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, let's see.
If you've been thinking about buying a home, you need to be in the zone, the home buying zone. You need a game plan to win in this great real estate market. The Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage has all your bases covered. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, purchasing your dream home, refinancing, consolidating debt, or even considering a reverse mortgage, contact the Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage today. They have the lowest closing costs and they'll close your loan on time, guaranteed, or they'll pay your first mortgage payment. And they even have a 3.5% purchase down payment grant that can get you into a home with little money out of your pocket. It doesn't get more clutch than that, folks. Score big on the biggest purchase of your life. Call Equity Zone Mortgage today at 1-800-772-8624. That's 1-800-772-8624. Or apply online at equityzonemortgage.com and tell them Big C sent you, as heard on the Big C Sports Podcast. License number 018148868.
This is Christopher Mad Dog Russo. Fuel your sports obsession with the new SiriusXM app, featuring all new league pages with easy access to every live and upcoming game, event reminders, show and podcast spotlights, and plenty more. Listen your way with hometown game feeds and get all the latest sports takes from all of us on Mad Dog Sports Radio, Tom Brady, and plenty more. And don't miss my show, Mad Dog Unleashed, on Channel 82 in the car and on the all-new SiriusXM app.
Visit www.SiriusXM.com/go to sign up online quickly and activate your radio. If you haven't subscribed to SiriusXM yet, you're missing out on over 140 channels of sports, news, talk, and entertainment, plus commercial-free music. Get play-by-play from your teams, your favorite music, commercial-free, and personalities like Howard Stern, no matter where you live. Unlock it all now. Activate your radio by visiting www.SiriusXM.com/go to sign up online quickly or call 844-711-8800 now.
Quando deportes, bonjour, vidi vici. Let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to the show. My name is Chuck of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to me and people who love the universe, and that would include you. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Won't you be my neighbor? Shut up! You know, at 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, I've told you many times I've been nominated or elected. This is election year. I've been elected to become the neighborhood spokesperson in my community. And I always want to bring people together. But some people just don't appreciate it when it's 3 o'clock in the morning. You don't have to worry about what time it is. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 29 podcast applications all across the universe. Follow Big C Sports on Google, Alexa, Spotify, Speaker Podcast, Apple Podcast, Amazon Podcast, Good Pods Podcast, TuneIn Podcast, iHeartRadio Podcast, Castbox Podcast, Deezer Podcast, Podcast Addict, Podchaser. You can also follow Big C Sports Podcast on Geo Savan out of London, England, as well as India and Africa, Podtail, YouTube, Hubhopper, Stitcher Podcast, Radio Line, Repod Podcast, Luminary Podcast, Listen Notes, Podcast Wise, Podbay, Verbal Podcast, Podcast Podacy, Podcast Republic, and the one that used to scare me but not doesn't is allfees.ai. Give that some praise. Why do you want to give it praise, Big C? The robots will take it over. That's right. Maybe we don't want to give allfees.ai some praise. I think everybody's experienced a little bit of artificial intelligence trying to take over, especially if you're in the bank line and you're trying to turn in some cans. And I was in the bank line trying to turn in some cans so I could get some gas. And after I stood in line for 33 minutes, the lady had the nerve to tell me, "Excuse me, sir, we don't exchange money for cans." I said, "You could have fooled me. The line is just as long as the recycle line. Give that some praise." I think they have so many artificial intelligence robots taking over. The banks are replacing people. They have 12 teller stations, but they only have two. They have 2 tellers in the bank. What did Chris Rock say? Two. I guess that's how you were raised. The banks are trying to do what Chris Rock said. You have 33 people in line. They have 2 tellers, and then you have that one person in line that, don't get me wrong, but she wants to talk about her grandchildren. You got 33 people in line. You got a lady said, I just want to tell you my grandchildren, they just started school again, and they're so wonderful. I really do. People like, ma'am, I got to catch my check, and I'm trying to turn in some cans. I got time for her grandchildren. All's Fran Leavenworth, I know she loves her grandchildren, and that's okay. You can also follow Big C Sports Podcast streaming OTT on 4TV podcast platforms all over the universe. Really do appreciate that. And I want to tell you, as far as 4TV podcast platforms, Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV, give that some praise. I love giving that praise. All's Fran Leavenworth. I tell you, I always produce the show. Why is Big C Sports a little bit different? I'm going to talk about some coaches that they decided to either step aside from Bill Belichick with the New England Patriots. You have Nick Saban from Alabama Crimson Tide, and then the great Pete Carroll from the Seattle Seahawks. They all stepped aside. And then people say, man, you talk too much politics on a sports show. Well, Congress is getting involved with the LA Dodgers because they're saying they paid a player too much money that he's going to defer until he returns home to Japan, avoiding the state taxes. That's politics getting involved with sports. That's my story, but I always produce the show. I direct the topics. I broadcast all the shows. I do all the sound effects based on the platform provided by the agency. We could all use more laughter in our lives. I know I can use more laughter. And then the commercials are done. The stats are provided. I even do the play-by-play up to the line of scrimmage. 4 wideouts, 5-man front by the Rams. And then you also have Brock Purdy in the I set formation. The snap, he's rolling to his right, throws downfield. The ball is caught. Caught for the touchdown. Touchdown, Niners. Debo Samuel, 50 yards. The Niners get a bye, and they need that bye. They dropped their last game to the Rams, but they had a lot of guys sitting out. Sam Darnold came in. Sam Darnold would have made $300,000 had they won that game, and the kicker missed an extra point and a field goal, if that makes sense to him. But the league got what it wanted. It got touchdown Matthew Stafford going back to Detroit to play the Detroit Bad Boys, and obviously known as the Detroit Lions. So that's the big thing in the NFL. They're going to have Matthew Stafford going back to where it started in Detroit, taking on the Detroit Lions, the LA Rams. Now, in a real fight, a lion with maul, even maul a ram. If that makes sense to you. But we'll see what happens in this game. And then the show's uploaded to 29 podcast platforms out of New York City. And I'm in Dimdale Hills, California. And then number 10, I never missed a show since creating Big C Sports with the crew back in September of 2015. I mean, I know now we got people who miss a day in practice. I'm not talking about the game, I'm talking about practice. But I never missed a show. Through good and bad times. That's called consistency. Give consistency some praise. Really do appreciate that. What I also want to say is honored to have the chance to give out the Veterans Crisis Hotline. I know there's a musician by the name of Kendrick Lamar, and he talks about a lot of intergenerational trauma, and everybody has it. And with an election year coming up, there'll be a lot of politicians going stomping. And there's one word. You ever see an elephant? You ever see an elephant in the room? Well, the elephant in the room this year is called reparations. And you'll see a Republican and Democratic candidates. They're trying to say everything but reparations. They're going to talk about slavery. They've been talking about that. They want to say that slavery really did not exist. I even had a good old girl tell me one time that slavery was, and she's a white lady, she said slavery really wasn't a bad idea, Big C, because they didn't even have to work. I said, what? She said, well, if you think about it, slavery really wasn't a bad idea. They didn't have to work. I said, ma'am, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard come out of the mouth of a woman. These people were raped with impunity, had their children sold off, their husbands beaten and lynched, their children sold off, beaten and lynched and raped and set fire and castrated. And you say as a white lady, yeah, but they didn't have to pay rent. Isn't that crazy when you talk about intergenerational trauma? I was watching a movie over the weekend called Color Purple, and there was a lady, and she happened to be, I guess she was married to the mayor or someone she was married to, and she told a black lady that had a nice relationship with her black man, she said, I would like you to be my maid. She said, I'm talking to you, look at me. And the black lady said, well, excuse me, I don't want to be your maid. I would never work for you. And then the husband jumps out of his truck and he smacks the black lady right in the mouth. You know, the way he was whipping his own woman at home. And she turned around and punched him back. And then some good old boys, they jumped out of the truck and they all tried to abuse the black woman. This is The Color Purple. Oprah wanted to tell that story for some reason. And they told that story in The Color Purple that the black woman fought back and they all jumped on her and beat her up. And then she was the one that ended up in jail for fighting back. And so when I had my white friend, erstwhile friend, tell me that slavery really wasn't that bad because people didn't have to work. And when I saw a lot of black women, when we came out of Jim Crow, or even during Jim Crow, out of slavery, they had to work as maids. They worked as maids, and they had to put up with a lot of crap from people that they didn't want to put up with the crap, but they didn't want to starve. So they went to work these jobs. And they had to be on their P's and Q's and take all the insults. And when the wives were away, I'm sure the men tried to have their way with those black women also. You couldn't fight back. Law enforcement didn't believe you. If you fought back, maybe you'd lose your job. And so when I watched the movie Color Purple, I said, why did that scene make the cut for Oprah? I'm just wondering. Because Oprah comes out of the South. But they spent time in The Color Purple painting black men as menacing and ogres. They didn't show any white man slapping his woman in the movie Color Purple. But we know that went on. White women are the biggest group of abused women in the world. At least in the United States. Why do you say that, Dixie? Look at the Me Too movement. That was about white ladies who've been quiet for getting their butts beat by white men. But in The Color Purple, they didn't show the white abuse of a white woman, but they showed the white abuse of a black woman. And when she fought back, she had to go to jail. Think about that. In The Color Purple, when the black woman fought back for being slapped by a white man, she fought back and she went to jail for it. And now when her black husband was slapping her around, there was no police to show up and help her. There was no Me Too movement. I don't know how that made the cut with Oprah. I really don't know. Because there have been a lot of black men who were loving to their wives. Not everybody gets their butt beat. But they showed that part in The Color Purple. And they didn't show one white woman, and I wonder how white women feel about it, especially the Me Too movement, because they all act like they've been abused. But they didn't show that in Color Purple where the white man was going upside his white lady's head. They only showed it with the black woman. And then when the black woman was getting slapped around, they didn't have no one coming to her rescue. Nobody came to her rescue. Not law enforcement. Not some sibling. Nobody came to her rescue. And I just wonder how that made the cut with Oprah. Because you got to know, we came out of the lynching, the slavery that the Republicans are afraid to talk about. Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump. They don't even want to talk about slavery and reparations. They're like the white friend, the erstwhile white lady told me that slavery really wasn't that bad because they didn't have to work. I said the white people didn't have to work. They were getting all that free labor. Who are you talking about didn't have to work? And maybe I just had an epiphany. Maybe she meant it wasn't that bad for her and white people because they didn't have to work. And they didn't have to pay for rent. I just look at that, why Oprah made that scene. I'm going to talk about sports too. But sometimes, why did Oprah Winfrey, who's considered a paragon and a maven of television, and rightfully so, after Phil Donahue opened doors for her, she soared as high as she could soar, now has her own network. But why was The Color Purple not about white abuse? Because all of those black families in The Color Purple, it was about intergenerational trauma. And the men had no power in the mainstream, so some of those men took it out on their woman. Not all of them. Because there was also some loving couples in that movie. But they were just, it was ancillary. But I wish they would have shown, in court they call equal time. You get equal time, the prosecutor and the defense. They have equal time to present their stories to the court. But I thought they would have had, at least since the Me Too movement was so prominent in the mainstream media, I thought they would have had at least shown some time where the white man said, beside his wife's head. And when they showed him making love to his wife in bed, it's like he was raping her. He wasn't making love to her. Halle Berry won an award for being treated the same way in, I think it was called Monsters Ball. And I forgot the name of the actor, but when the man that run over her son and killed him, but he came as a great white knight because he had a couple of dollars in his pocket. And when they showed him in the love scene, it was like rape. And the white people in Hollywood gave her an Oscar award for laying down and being subservient to a white man. And you black women know it's true. They lead to, hey, can I see you because I got $1 in my pocket and maybe you don't have one. And that to me bothers me. And I just wonder why that made the cut with Color Purple. They didn't show any white woman being abused. You know they've been having men go beside their head. Unless the Me Too movement was wrong. What's that got to do with sports, Big C? It has everything to do with sports. Because life as a sport is about competition. And I just wonder again, as I get into the talk of reparations in sports, which is what most people, just like the movie Color Purple, they did not want to show any type of white intergenerational trauma. But you can't tell me that white ladies haven't been getting their butts kicked by their husbands. If not the case, we wouldn't have so many shelters, women's shelters, people fleeing the abuse. It happens in every culture. You probably get hit by somebody who looks like you. I've never hit a woman in my life. Never. Not even one time. But when people look at, oh, he's a black man, maybe I saw how they behave in The Color Purple. But white men are the biggest abuser. Oh, there you go again, Big C. How do you say that? Look at the criminal justice system, the prison industrial complex. Most black people are incarcerated not by other black men, but by white judges. Most black women are incarcerated not by black women, but by white judges for doing the same behavior that they learn from white people, usually the drug industry. And people know that's true. Hollywood has so many white people in rehab, and the prisons have so many black people in the prison for the same substance. And so that's why it just bothers me that why didn't The Color Purple show white trauma? Why did Halle Berry win an award for really having her son murdered, and then some white guy like raping her on the sofa? There was no love in that at all. So what is it about our society that wants to see black people treated such a way? And then sometimes we acquiesce to it. So when someone as prominent as Oprah Winfrey, who came from the South, the Jim Crow South, showed black love at the end of the movie, where the man atoned for all the crap he had done and then let his wife meet her sister again. I know that goes on in white society too, because I know many white women who have been abused. They've told me. And all the abuse centers, they're usually filled with white ladies. In the rehab centers, they're full of white people. But I just wonder why it bothered me some in Color Purple. They didn't show love as much as they should have. If it's called Equal Time, they didn't show any white people being abused. How could that not have happened if the white men were so draconian that they just came out of lynching, where they could lynch you with impunity, sell your family off with impunity, rape your spouse and your daughter with impunity, didn't never pay the price for it. And they hid that part in Color Purple. But they let you see, oh, look at how this black man gonna treat his wife. Trying to sleep with every woman that was around him. That's what white men have done. Why do you think all the what they call octoroon and all the mulattoes came from? Miscegenation. It wasn't black slaves going into Martha's house raping this woman. I told you they were in the barn getting as much of their black women as they could with impunity because they had nothing. They had no Me Too movement to save the black ladies. And then Oprah comes along and produces the movie that shows black women being traumatized again. And even by a white lady who was so verbally abusive and offensive that it caused a black woman to defend herself after she was punched by the white man. She hit him back, and they arrested her. And that bothers me that Oprah would let that seep through. But she did. And then she goes to the Oscars, or to the Golden Globes, and celebrates white television actors and movie actors for getting an award. She didn't point out the fact that white people were 10 times to 1 more likely to get 10 jobs before a black actor gets 1 job. She didn't point that out. She celebrated it. And at the same time, California Senator Stephen Bradford has reparations on the books. Senate Bill 490. I'm not saying we can't be entertained. Have you not been entertained? I know we all get entertained, but it bothered me because now I watch these politicians running around stomping as they got the black people saying, man, can't you wait? I can't wait for the kickoff. Touchdown, home run, 3-point play. Old man Willie, he's going all the way. And we're drunk in love on watching the NFL football come up, and I love it too. But I'm not a monolithic group of black Americans, and I'm not just linear in my thinking. I want to be multifaceted. So as we're getting drunk in love to see who's going to win the game or who's going to play in the basketball game and drop 30 points, they're out there stomping for your vote. And you're going to see predominantly white people stomping for the vote. I think Cornel West is the only black politician that's running for office. Tim Scott dropped out. They saw him on stage with a white lady. He lost all the white support. And so Cornel West is the only one that I know of. I may be missing one that's running for office, unless it's Booker. I haven't heard of him making a run yet. Cory Booker. So that's only 3 black Americans that I know of. Cornel West, Tim Scott, dropped out. Cory Booker, I don't know if he's going to run this time. So it's all about that white power structure. Now you have white women running for president of the United States. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's a power structure. That power structure that refuses to talk about America's biggest sin, which is slavery. If you talk about slavery, then you got to talk about how you repair it. You got to repair it by saying reparations now, reparations forever. They released the movie Color Purple in an election year to get black folks to focus on what Oprah produced as opposed to what California Senator Stephen Bradford has produced, which is a bill called SB 490 to create Freedmen's Bureau, the same bank that President Lincoln signed and created through executive order back on March 3rd, 1865. But people don't know that. We know Color Purple. We know we're going to go see the Color Purple to see us betrayed in a negative light until the end, where the man said, you know, I've been wrong all these years. Let me try to atone before I go to the pearly gates. It just bothers me. And I'm going to talk about that. Well, how does that relate to sports, Big C? I'll tell you how it relates to sports. I want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in Genesis 1:3, where God said, like the Republican Party, reparations now, reparations forever. Big C, that's not what God said. And then God said, let there be light. You got to shine light on this subject. That's what I want to do with Big C Sports. I also want to I really do appreciate the opportunities that I have with my platform. And before I get into more of what I saw in politics and why the color purple was released in an election year. Why wasn't it released last year? It was released in an election year, right for Christmas. What do you want for Christmas? To see more black intergenerational trauma. And we have reparations at the forefront of our minds, and not many people talk about it. Well, what gives you the authority to talk about it, Big C? What gave me the authority? I didn't ask for the opportunity. It was presented to me. I want to thank the Associated Press. That gives me the authority. Why the Associated Press, Big C? Because I got a call from Janie Harbour, the Associated Press, about reparations. Ring, ring. Hello? Hi, is this Charlton? Yeah, this is Charlton. Hi, this is Janie Harbour, the Associated Press. Okay, wait, well, how can I help you? She said, I want to get your thought on reparations. I said, well, how'd you get my number? And what made you call? She said, well, I heard you speak at a reparations rally, and I wanted to get your thoughts. She could have called the guys at ESPN. She could have called the guys at Fox Sports. She could have called the guys at NFL Network, NBC Sports, TNT. She didn't call them. She didn't call Shaq. She didn't call Charles Barkley. She didn't call Kenny the Jet Smith. She didn't call Ernie. Why not? They're more well-known than I am. Why didn't she call them about reparations? Because that's the most seminal bill right now that's in Congress for people of color, black Americans. Why didn't she call them about it? She didn't call Oprah. She called Big C Sports. I didn't call them. I said, how'd you get my number? She said, we have our ways. I said, okay, well, how can I help you? She said, I heard you speak at a reparations rally, and I wanted to get your thoughts. I said, if you heard me speak, then you know my thoughts. I believe what President Abraham Lincoln said. I said, reparations now, reparations forever. And she printed it in the article. You can Google it, March 30, 2023. It was picked up by NBC News, CBS News, ABC News, Fox News. It says Charlton Curry of Sacramento, California, who discusses reparations. Listen up, black athletes who are now TV stars. Who discusses reparations. Listen up, political candidates running for the black vote. Who discusses reparations on his Big C Sports podcast. Give that some praise. And it says cash payments are necessary. You can't get much bigger than the Associated Press. So anyone that says, man, who are you to talk about politics? Well, the Associated Press, how about them? And all I'm saying is I want to stand in line with our politicians and hopefully even the president in making sure that we're not just drunk in love with sports and watching Color Purple, because they released that movie at a time that the election is coming. And they got us spending money on a Color Purple and not on what our senators are trying to do for people of color. Now, if you want to stand in, you got two lines to stand in. Black Americans, white Americans got your own lines. If you want to join, that's fine too. But black Americans got two lines. The one to go get entertained and watch the intergenerational trauma where they show us abusing each other. We can stand in line with the politicians that are saying what the President of the United States should be saying. What President Abraham Lincoln said, that reparations are necessary to repair the harms. That's the line I want to stand in. I want to give that line some praise. And I'm saying it, I want to speak it because my heart, mind, body, and soul believes in it. And many people don't even know what I'm going to say right now. But it's so important. California Senator Stephen Bradford, he has a bill in front of the California legislature. It's SB 490. And it's to create the Freedmen's Bureau in California. That's what President Abraham Lincoln created March of 1865 for black Americans to have banks. In banking, it's a proposal. And you don't hear about it. And I'm part of the co-chair of the National Black Wall Street Project in California. So I have a right to do it. Because we all need to be a part of the solution. Yeah, watch Color Purple. Nothing wrong with going to spend your money on something. But it's not going to tell you how to get reparations passed. Not in the United States. That's my opinion, but it's a fact. I want to thank Double O, part of the payout committee for the National Black Wall Street Project, sent me an order called Executive Order 13985. It was sent by President Biden. One of his first things that he did in office was he signed Executive Order 13985. You can Google it. It was further advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. That's the White House. But you're not going to hear about that. You would have thought you'd hear about it on the other sports shows. But they just want to shuck and jive and talk about what athletes are doing. And to me, we are our biggest problem as descendants of chattel slavery. Because we just let them entertain us. Have you not been entertained? I think we can do both. I also want to thank Double O. She sent me this article from the United Nations that said that strong leadership and political will are crucial to ensure reparatory justice for people of African descent. That's reparations. I want to thank T-Mobile, proud sponsor of the Big C Sports. Give that some praise. America's largest 5G network. I want to thank PNC Private Bank, proud sponsor of the Big C Sports podcast. And I just want to say before I get into some sports, because you may not learn this anywhere else, because our people won't talk about it. I want people to Google Freedman's Bank. I just told you, Senator Stephen Bradford in California, he has in front of the legislature right now proposals for reparations and establishing Freedman's Bank. It was created 1865 by United States Congress. And President Abraham Lincoln signed it to executive order to exist. The need for the bank was because when blacks became free during the American Civil War, black soldiers helped the Union win the Civil War. But African American soldiers in the Union Army were often denied access to conventional banks and were often taken advantage of by swindlers, and they took their money. It was John W. Alford, a congressional minister. You know, we go to church, and Anson M. Sperry, a United States Army paymaster, individually identified that need and attempted to foster the creation of such an institution. In early 1865, Alford's efforts culminated in the legislation passed by Congress March 3rd of 1865 that incorporated Freedmen's Savings and Trust. I just told you what Senator Stephen Bradford's trying to do right now in California. And the company as a nonprofit financial institution, President Abraham Lincoln immediately signed the bill. He signed the bill into law. He signed the bill. But I know we're so busy watching Color Purple, many people don't even know about it. Trying to get us paid, and we're so busy going to the Hollywood studios to give them our money. And they won't even hire black people. If they do, they hire white people for 10 jobs first before you get one. Oh, there you go again, Big C. Really? Even Chris Rock talked about a hashtag Hollywood so white. So they got a few black people up there presenting to the 90%, actually 95% white audience and white actors. Those white people aren't championing reparations for us. Big C, don't turn your nose at me. I would love our white actors and actresses to champion reparations. I would love if they say, you know what, we benefited for too long, and we should offer reparations and chant for it the same way we got South Africa. When they had apartheid, people stood against the South African government because they were treating black Americans so wrong. We've never gotten reparations, people. And that's why I'm so honored to be able to talk about it and give that some praise, if that makes sense to you. Before I get into some sports, or even more sports, I want to say please Google HR 40. HR 40. President Biden knows Representative Sheila Jackson Lee out of Texas. The Commission to Study and Develop Reparations Proposals for African Americans. It's in Congress as we're watching the Color Purple. Please Google AB 3121, California. Is legislative tracking the bills that are in front of the state legislature right now to propose and pass reparations. As we are watching the Color Purple in the intergenerational trauma, they didn't show white trauma. They only showed black trauma. Why did that not make the cut? Why did it not make the cut? It's important. And also New York City Governor Kelly Hockey, she's also proposed studying reparations for descendants of child slavery. It's not just Big C Sports. They're trying to honor what President Abraham Lincoln did, or what he was going to do. He did pass reparations, but he gave it to the slave owners when the slaves were emancipated because he gave them money for lost free labor. In our society, they got us drunk on love. I guarantee you, if you do a poll, and I'll do it right now, ask every black American that stands in California to get between $1.2 million and $3 million if they heard of SB 490. You can ask 10 people, have they heard of SB 490? And I'll tell you, probably only 2 out of 10 say yes. But ask them, have they heard of the color purple? You'll probably get 9 out of 10 saying yes. Which one's going to pay reparations for descendants of child slavery? SB 3121, SB 490, or color purple? It's definitely not going to be the Golden Globes. They won't even talk about reparations for descendants of child slavery. Well, it's not Hollywood's. It's not Hollywood's responsibility, Big C. It was their responsibility to talk about the Me Too movement when they helped white women get paid for accusations that go back over 30 years. Look at what happened to Bill Cosby. Came out of the woodwork. Had to do some time for allegations that were 30 years old. But you can't tell me they can't put that same type of energy into reparations. If he was guilty, what do you say about society that sanctioned the slavery? How many black women do you think were assaulted and raped, even through Jim Crow, with impunity? There's no statute of limitation on a crime. Not that I know of, unless a lawyer can tell me I'm wrong. There's no statute of limitation on crime. Or is it? Because you got people in the Me Too movement went to jail for something they did 30 years ago. And civil rights was passed in 1964. That's just 60 years ago. We need to talk about reparations, give that some praise. It's so important. It's so important. You want to talk about intergenerational trauma in the movie Color Purple? How about talk about how to repair? Reparations is a process. It's not just money. It's housing. It's land. It's free health care, free education. It's free mental health care. It's free loans for business. You know, like the white people got through the Homestead Act. Over 276 million acres of land. Even white Europeans, black people got nothing. I met a lady today in a building, and I gave her my card. She looked like a real estate agent. I said, we help people get loans. You know, anyone looking to buy or sell a house and needs a loan? In business loans, this is what I do. I gave her my card. I said, where are you from, ma'am? She said, I'm from the Ukraine. I said, so you've heard of President Zelensky? She said, oh, yes. She heard of President Zelensky because he came and got the $100 billion. Why she live in the United States? Why did our government give Ukraine $100 billion? And Ukrainians are fleeing Ukraine to come to the United States. So what they need the money for? When you got people here sleeping under overpasses. I mean, it's just something else. Well, that's my story. I'm sticking with it. I want to get to some of you guys that just want to watch sports. And, you know, reparations are right there as you're breathing. If you're breathing, at least Google California Senator Stephen Bradford and try to give that brother some support as you stand up for the kickoff. I want to give praise to the California Reparations Task Force because I'm the only sports show in the universe that's going to do it. Nobody's doing it from you. They ain't going to do it on ESPN. They ain't going to do it on TNT. They ain't going to do it on CBS Sports. They ain't going to do it on NBC Sports. In fact, they ain't going to do it. But Big C Sports does. If it was about a black man committing a crime, they put him all over the news. He'd be all over the news 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you know it's true. They talk about these smash and grabs going on. They always try to show it on the news. to let people know that stores are losing money because of smash and grabs. They make it assume that there's people of color. Why do they do that? Because they always try to get a close-up. They don't do that white-collar crime where people are robbing and embezzling money from banks. They don't go to the banks and show the people stealing $1 billion. They don't show white-collar crime because of them. They look like they're Caucasians. I want to praise the California Reparations Task Force, Camila Moore. She's the chair. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to also give praise to Dr. Amos C. Brown, the vice chair. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to give praise to the #1 senator in the United States of America that I've met with, been in his office, going to meet with him again soon. His name is Senator Stephen Bradford, and he's trying to get us reparations as Oprah's at the Golden Globes handing out awards for people that get 10 times the opportunity as people who look like her. He's trying to get reparations for people who look like her and where she came from. He's brilliant. He's helped create name, image, and likeness so college kids get paid. Also sponsored the Ebony Alert to help law enforcement put the same resources into finding black children as they do into finding white children through the Amber Alert. Why do we need two different alerts? Because we live in a colorblind society? No! We know people aren't treated the same. That's why Hollywood will never champion, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm so wrong, and nobody likes to be wrong. I hope I'm wrong when I say white Hollywood will never champion reparations. And I hope I'm wrong. They will never champion reparations, but they'll say, come see my movie. The same movies that black people can't even get a leading role in. Usually an ancillary role. Even Denzel won an award for playing a dirty cop. Should have won one for Malcolm X. I want to give praise to Councilmember Monica Montgomery Steppe. She's brilliant. I want to give praise to Assembly Member Reginald Jones Sawyer. He's brilliant. I want to give praise to Dr. Shell Grills. She's brilliant. I want to give praise to Attorney Lisa Holder. She's brilliant. I want to give praise to Dr. Javon Scott Lewis, professor at California, Berkeley. He's brilliant. And I want to give praise to Attorney Donald K. Tamaki. He's brilliant. Japanese American who already received reparations. And he believes that black Americans should get reparations too. Give that some praise. I love saying that because I'm the only person in the world that does it. I want to thank this is CNN and proud sponsors of Big C Sports Podcast. And I want to just say, when it comes to sports and the politics too, there's been a give me some praise for what I just said. You won't hear anywhere else but Big C Sports. I'm for everybody. I'm egalitarian. But I do want to say, in the world of college football, the great Nick Saban, who does the Aflac commercial with the great primetime Deion Sanders, Nick Saban retires, a 7-time national championship winning coach, and he leaves Alabama after 17 seasons. Isn't that something? 17 seasons. Many consider Nick Saban to be the greatest of all time in the world of college football. He's retiring at the age of 72 after doing 17 years at Alabama. He announced it Wednesday, and the man has just been a winner. He decided to retire, ending a long run that ranks among the greatest in college football history because he mastered recruiting the black athlete. Oh, there you go again, Big C. Seriously, Alabama was a segregated school until his predecessor, the Paul Bear Bryant, started integrating University of Alabama down in Tuscaloosa. They lost a game to USC with 42-21, I believe, and he said, I got to get me some of them. Well, now Nick Saban has surpassed him. Isn't it amazing? He ranks among one of the greatest coaches in college football history because he learned to recruit the black athlete. I just wish that Nick Saban would have also learned to champion reparations for those families that he goes into the household and asks, can your son come to my school to help make me some money? He could have done that. The 7-time national championship winning coach, he leaves the game having spent the last 17 seasons with the Alabama Crimson Tide. Alabama eliminated in the 2023 college football semifinals, and they lost to Michigan 27-20 in the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all. And Michigan went on to win the national championship, beating the University of Washington. But Saban's 7 national titles, one at LSU, down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, he won it because he knows how to recruit the black athlete. And that's a fact. I wish that they would do the same thing in trying to get the message for reparations across, because they go into the backwoods of Louisiana and Alabama and get some of those kids to come play for their schools. But they know that reparations is necessary, according to President Abraham Lincoln. But his 7 national titles, 1 at LSU in 2003 and 6 at Alabama in 2009, 2011, 2012, 2015, 2017, 2020. He matched the great Bear Bryant and stands as the most all-time, his 292 career wins across a career that also includes stops at Toledo in Ohio, Michigan State, and it ranks Saban among the top 15 in the game's history. But you know what was consistent in all of his national championships? What's that, Big C? The black athlete. The same black athletes that have a hard time getting a job coaching NCAA Division I college football. And that's a fact. And so Nick's been a great coach. He's helped a lot of men earn the opportunity to go play pro. When you think about what he's done over the years, he's been amazing. Under Alabama, under his tutelage, he saw the Crimson Tide capture 6 national titles in a 12-year span from 2009 to 2020. Every other year they were winning. They only lost a couple of times. I know they lost one to Georgia, and they lost one to Clemson. I can't remember who else beat Alabama. You won't find that kind of success outside of John Wooden, the late, great John Wooden, who led UCLA to 11 national championships. But when you think about what the man has done in the program, teaching young men how to come in and play football for Alabama, it doesn't mean that they were all graduating. It doesn't mean that they had opportunity to go back to the University of Alabama and coach. But his time in football extended beyond the college ranks into the NFL. He spent 1 season leading Toledo before resigning and joining Bill Belichick's staff as a defensive coordinator of the Cleveland Browns in 1991 and 1994. And after that, he went to Michigan State and then LSU, and then the latter, which included his first national championship. Nick Saban accepted the head coaching job with the Miami Dolphins in the NFL. And then Saban spent just 2 years in Miami before going 15 wins and 17 losses before returning to the world of college football. And of all that winning that Nick Saban's done, and congratulations to him, you know one thing that's conspicuously absent? He never championed for reparations for descendants of chattel slavery, most of the athletes that he recruited in the South. Oh, there you go again, Big C. I'm just saying, he never did. But they helped him become a multi-millionaire, those young black men. And people know it's true. I want to also look at Pete Carroll in the NFL. Pete Carroll, the great Pete Carroll. You know, Pete Carroll, I think he played, I don't even want to say if I might say it wrong. I think he played, I know he spent some time at UOP in Stockton, which is now, they closed their football program about 2 decades ago. But Pete Carroll is out as head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, and he's the winningest head coach in the history of the Seattle Seahawks. 137 wins, 89 losses, and only 1 tie. And no one saw it coming. The Seattle Seahawks parted ways with Pete Carroll as their head coach yesterday. He spent nearly 15 years in the role. And owner Jody Allen released a statement announcing that Pete Carroll was not fired, but his role is evolving from head coach to advisor. And he said, after thoughtful meetings and careful consideration for the best interest of the franchise, he amicably decided to agree that Pete Carroll and his role will evolve from head coach to remain with the organization as an advisor. He's the winningest coach in Seahawks history, and he brought the city his first Super Bowl title and created a tremendous impact over the past 14 years on the field and in the community. And Pete Carroll's been great. He led USC to national championships. They had 3 undefeated seasons where they finally lost, 3 undefeated regular season. They finally lost in the Rose Bowl to Texas. I thought that game was 800 gambler special. But the man has been able to win wherever he's gone. Pete Carroll went to the heart of South Central Los Angeles and recruited a lot of athletes and helped USC go on their run. I think they won 34 games in a row. But he was there at the helm doing that. John McKay, Pete Carroll. I mean, he's been one of the 2 greatest coaches ever at USC. And so Seattle hired him away from USC in 2010. and which began the most successful era in Seahawks football history. There's 2 years after Carroll took over the 34-year-old franchise, the Seahawks drafted quarterback Russell Wilson, and the good times really got going 2 years after that. Carroll and Wilson were holding the Lombardi Trophy, having led the team to its first Super Bowl. They beat the Denver Broncos at that time. I think it was 43-8 in New York City, New Jersey, and then Wilson traded to the Broncos before the 2022 season. But Carroll kept his job at the time. He's just been a great coach, a great ambassador, 14 years as head coach. He was not able to win a second Super Bowl. They should have given the ball to beast mode against New England, but we know that's the case. And it didn't happen. So he's been a great ambassador for coach at the college level and the NFL level. He wasn't able to win a second Super Bowl because they did not give the ball to beast mode against the Patriots on 2nd and goal from the 1. But he's been a great coach, made 9 overall trips to the playoffs, 137 wins, 89 losses, and 1 tie record, and is the winningest head coach in Seattle Seahawks history by a huge margin. And since he was head coach at the Seattle Seahawks in the NFC West, the 49ers have been to the Super Bowl multiple times. The LA Rams have been to the Super Bowl at least once, and the Arizona Cardinals have been to the Super Bowl. So you know he was competing in one of the most difficult divisions in football, the NFC West. He's been a great ambassador for the sport. The second winningest coach was Mike Holmgren, who has 51 fewer wins than Pete Carroll. But Carroll made that happen, and you got to just give him some praise. Even though he never championed for reparations, like I wish he could have done, because he has such a huge platform, bigger than Big C's, a huge platform. And at USC and at Seattle, they often look at the black athlete to help them win. But at the same time, they ignore where many of those black athletes come from. They come from the heart of segregation in the South. You got to give me some praise for saying that, because a lot of people want to say that. Well, people say, well, it's not his responsibility to say it. Why not? Why not his responsibility? Just like it may not have been Oprah's responsibility to say it. Give me some praise for saying that. It may not even be my responsibility for talking about reparations, but it is. Because I know where I come from. All life began on the African continent. And I want to side with President Abraham Lincoln, and I want to side with what President Joe Biden did when he signed Executive Order 13985. Most people don't know about that. Even black Americans don't know about Executive Order 13985. Google it and see what he signed his first day in office. And here we are with reparations about to happen for us, and many of our people want to spend top dollar going to see Color Purple. That says nothing about reparations. It shows intergenerational trauma on the black side, but not the white side. It showed a white man, I just had an epiphany. It showed a white man smacking a black woman right in the face. And when she fought back, people jumped on her and she was arrested. How did that make the cut? Oprah? Why didn't they show a white man at least smacking a white woman a couple of times? They didn't do it. And so I don't like the way society has tried to beat down on the black women. And when you fought back, you saw what happened to her. She got arrested for fighting back. The mob that jumped on her, they didn't get arrested. None of them did. And you say that people should talk about reparations? Of course they should. If you could talk about abuse that happens to our people, and that was just a scene in a movie. Because we're so drunk in love in sports. I'm not. But congratulations, Pete Carroll. I wish you the very best. I just wish you would have spoken about reparations. Maybe now you will. I also want to say there's another coach, Bill Belichick. Coach Bill Belichick has decided to step down as the head coach of the New England Patriots. Why is that? Why did Bill Belichick step down? Well, because they hadn't won the last couple of years. And you think about it, he has been such a great coach for the New England Patriots. But the era is over. They said it ended amicably, owner Robert Kraft said, but he's a legendary coach. In 24 years at the same job for the New England Patriots, team owner Bob Kraft, he stood side by side with Bill Belichick, a longtime head coach, and addressed reporters. And I believe he actually has a lot of love for Belichick. And I don't think Belichick's coached his last game. Players win games in the NFL, but Belichick has been at the helm. And when Tom Brady left, they won 6 Super Bowls together. Think about it. It was a hard move. As hard as it's to believe, many ways expected, because despite the 6 Super Bowl championships, 9 Super Bowl appearances, 31 playoff wins, and 17 division titles that Coach Bill Belichick was a part of, he brought the New England Patriots to the crescendo of NFL football. He did it with the help of quarterback Tom Brady. But when you think about it, Belichick just had his last season in New England, finished 4 wins and 13 losses. Now, injuries contributed to it also. But that's not what they were expecting in New England. They gave him some time to get things together, and they never won more than 4 games this year. There was a time that they were every year they were going to win at least 10 games, but now they've struggled the last couple of years. So he's going to go away and try to find something else to do. But again, he's 72 years old, or coming up on 72 years old, and I don't think he's finished coaching. He also was a coordinator with the New York Giants when they won a Super Bowl. They beat the Buffalo Bills on the kick, the wide right kick for Buffalo, and then they also had another win in the Super Bowl, the New York Giants. But I'm telling you, he's done a great job in New England. I wish he would have talked about reparations, because people would listen to him. Oh, Big C, why you put it on the coaches? Because the NFL put in racism on the back of all their end zones. Why do you think they put that there? Why do you think they put in racism on the back of their end zones? And one end zone has said it takes all of us. Because they know they want to say reparations are necessary. So I applaud the NFL for that. Roger Goodell, I'll give you praise for that. But we can go further. Just like the Me Too movement went further, it ended up in court. And a lot of those ladies, they got paid whatever they were after for allegations. So you can either lead, follow, or get out of the way. As Big C Sports Podcast, I want to give praise to the people that are willing to say, let's try to repair what was wrong. It doesn't take a lot of courage to say the right thing. Do the right thing. Spike Lee had a movie called Do the Right Thing. Let's all do the right thing. I'm so in support of California Senator Stephen Bradford. He could be like anybody. He could have gone to the Golden Globes and say, let's applaud some white actors that get 10 opportunities for every 1 opportunity that black actors get. But he's here in the state capitol passing legislation. Which one do you have more respect for? I mean, we got to look at it. We only have so much time on this planet. Our ancestors went through a whole lot. And because they didn't give up, and because they weren't one of the ones that was lynched and murdered, then we still here to this day. Somewhere down the lineage of every American, black American, at some point in time, you have ancestry that was lynched, hanged, murdered, raped, abused, and sold off. Oh, that was a long time ago. Try going to the school to pick up your kid. They say your child's not here, your child's been sold. And you can do nothing about it. I'm just saying, we celebrate these coaches. Congratulations. And they got wealthy because most of them, they hired mostly black men to be on their teams. And not one of them has championed reparations. Not publicly. If the NFL can say end racism, why can't you? That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, as I always tell you, on every Big C Sports show, if you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink. Because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You can call Uber. You can call Lyft. You can walk it off. You can sleep it off, but don't let someone you love get behind the wheel of a car and start driving after they've been drinking. The life you save may be your own. But that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Now, by popular demand, As I always tell you on every Big C Sports show, I thank you, I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a super, fantastic day. And what about Dribble D.D. Brown, Big C? Oh, that's right. Back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Dribble D.D. Brown. He's known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, he said, you float like a butterfly, and you sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Ali would say, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat. Every time I listen to Big C Sports, it makes me want to say, reparations now, reparations forever. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. My beautiful mother always says there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. No man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. If you know anybody going through that garbage, pick up the phone and call 911. Because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. I know some people, they say, well, I don't want to get him in trouble because he only hits me when he's mad. Call 911. No one should ever be treated like that. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, Big C, what about President Abraham Lincoln? That's right. It's an election year. They're going to start stomping and talking to you about the vote. As I always tell you, they honor Abraham Lincoln on my show. And what did Abraham Lincoln tell us? He said, sign reparations now, sign reparations forever. Let's say it like we want to mean it, like President Abraham Lincoln meant it. He said, sign reparations now, sign reparations forever. Come on, let's say it the way you cheer when your team has just scored a point in a game. He says, sign reparations now, sign reparations forever. I thank you, I appreciate you, and hope that you have a super fantastic day.